הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד.
Good afternoon. We made it.
Baruch Hashem.
Welcome to Songs of Peace at the 298-year-old Independent Interdenominational Annisquam Village Church. My name is Reverend Sue.
And I'm Rav Naomi. So in September of 2024, many of us came together in this very sanctuary and were so inspired by the work of STEP, Science Training Encouraging Peace, that our two communities, Temple Avat Achim and the Annisquam Village Church, decided to create today's event with the goal of raising enough money to support a pair of scholars for a year. Since yesterday's news came out, the need for peace in our world feels both more urgent and more remote. A young Eti Hilesum, who was murdered at Auschwitz, knew the cost of war all too well. She wrote, "Ultimately, we have just one moral duty: to reclaim large areas of peace in ourselves, more and more peace, and to reflect it towards others. And the more peace there is in us, the more peace there will also be in our troubled world."
Together, let us pause in silence to unite our hearts and prayerfully dedicate our time together to the cause of peace. Amen. One of the things we learned from STEP is the importance of building relationships in order to develop peace. So we wanted to take this opportunity, because we are two communities and many friends, to build relationships. So if you would please turn to someone you do not yet know and introduce yourself. We have made some new friends. Sharing music together can bring us together and foster peace. Our program today highlights not only the musical gifts of our respective communities, but also the talents of award-winning musician Akram Haddad and pianist Chian. So we are so delighted to have you here with us too. You will hear from the co-founders of STEP, and we had hoped to hear from 2 students in Israel, but they are not able to join us, and Kim later will read letters that they have sent. Instead, we will be hearing from a STEP alum, Aya.
Before we proceed to that program, I just want to thank the committee, our sponsors, our wonderful musicians, and our communities, our respective communities, for helping us to reach this goal. It is now my privilege to introduce one of the co-founders of STEP. This is Alan Taylor, who co-founded the organization along with his wife, Kim Cronenberg. Alan, b'chavod.
You may never believe this, but we actually had a speaking coach for the last too many months, and now I'm going to forget everything she taught us. So this is about as close to God as I've ever gotten, and may be as close to God as I ever get, in fact. So I hope people are looking down kindly on us. And in fact, they cleared the skies. So, you know, we were 2 storms into this, and finally we made it. So thank you so much. So I'm going to tell you, it's almost surreal here talking about peace today while the war is raging. It's so bizarre that our students are actually in bomb shelters at this point. So I'm going to tell you today a little bit about Science Training Encouraging Peace. The acronym is STEP, not STEM, STEP. And STEP, in brief, STEP funds the graduate education of pairs of scholars, there's PhD and MD scholars. And the reason we chose that high level is because we wanted people who are very rapidly going to assume positions of responsibility, and we wanted to invest in them very significant advanced training so that they could be empowered to be spokespeople for progressive cooperation that STEP tries to foster. So we've overcome so many obstacles and barriers today. Obstacles, barriers, and hurdles, and you hear me say that again shortly. Today, to be here, and before I go forward, I want to thank a lot of people. God, first, Rev Sue, thank you so much, and the team you put together, really remarkable. And Rav Naomi, your teams are just amazing. How many people it took to put this together? You know, they talk about a village. You have a village and a city working together, and you got it all done. And here we are. And I want a special shout out to the hospitality committees. And let me just recall this word you just said, Hine Matav, Shevet Achim Geyachad. You know, here we are, tribes together, brethren in peace. So I hope that's a spirit we continue through today. So I was a senior Fulbright scholar in Israel in the year 1999, 1998, 1999. We lived there for a year. And then I went back as a Belkin visiting professor at the Weizmann Institute for teaching the biology of aging in 2014, oddly enough, the year when there was another war there. But we met so many fascinating people, so many Palestinians and Israelis. You know, when people there tell you about their family and their culture, they don't speak in terms of, you know, I lived in Boston for 2 years, and then I moved to Los Angeles, to Berkeley, like I did for my college, you know, my education. But rather they speak in terms of decades and sometimes even centuries. And people's histories are so deep that it's fascinating. It's like the Shechrazad, you know, people have such great stories. It's mesmerizing. And the art and the science was such a thrill. And we met so many wonderful people there. But there was sort of something also a little bit odd about living there, something a bit sad, right? There was this pervasive fear. And you know, it is as indicated, in fact, by the last 24 hours, right? The last 24 hours, the last 24 years, the last 24 centuries. There seems to be this constant fear of chronic instability. And now I focus specifically on Israelis and Palestinians, and Israelis and Palestinians are afraid of being attacked, killed, homes destroyed, land confiscated, and thousands, especially since 2023, thousands have been killed. And this led to a profound sense of societal trauma, right? And a lack of trust between Israelis and Palestinians. And you get a feeling it's exhausting. And you see it in people's faces when you walk in the street. The average Israeli of comparable age, well, not my age, everybody looks old at that point, but younger people look younger, 10 years old, you look 10 years older than the typical American. And so we found ourselves like in a quagmire. There'd be no personal peace until there's peace between Israelis and Palestinians. That is on a sort of national basis. And unfortunately, the current leaders seem to be either unwilling or unable to make what's called the peace of the brave. So, getting back to our story, we asked ourselves, well, we had these fantastic experiences. What could we do to repay these wonderful relationships we've built? How could we foster some of that? How could we build, maybe we could offer to build trust and hope, because we don't need a lot of equipment to do that, right? Not like building a lab, we thought it didn't cost as much, but it turns out you have to raise a lot of money to do this. So we thought, well, let's play from our strength, and which wasn't that many, but I know how to bring together scientists. And for the last 40 years, I've been organizing large consortia of scientists to work together to bring studies from the laboratory, say, to clinical medicine. And so we thought, well, maybe we could bring together one Palestinian and one Israeli, the Palestinian having to be from the West Bank of Gaza, because that's the Palestinians with whom Israelis have to make peace, and ask them to work together on a common project, something where they both have an ambition, they'll both get something out of it. PhD student, MD students, we'll fund them for full time of their studies, 4 years. We give them full funding for 4 years, and ask them to be support to one another. And an example of that, for instance, is my own experience. Say in these days, you talk about building a mouse, right? It used to be you caught a mouse under the cabinet or something, but nowadays, in the lab, if you want to see if you can make a mouse healthier, right? So we give it certain genes, we put certain genes into it. Well, that takes 1, 2, 3 years to make all the construct to do that. And then you want to keep the mouse alive a couple of years to see if at the end of its time, it has lived, in fact, a longer, healthier, high-quality life. And but during that time, say my wife is pregnant, she gives birth. I need to take time off. Or I may lack certain knowledge. So I look around my lab and ask, well, who's the right person who could help me out? Well, the nature of research is that you really have to come obstacles, barriers, and hurdles virtually every single day, right? Because you're always conquering the unknown. And so we thought, okay, we could make a Palestinian and Israeli work on a common project. They'll become very close. They'll develop these enduring, trusting friendships. And in fact, that's exactly what did happen to me. And had we had this, it was closer to God, and we had this on January 25th, as originally scheduled, you would have met one of my dearest friends, who has in fact remained a consultant and advisor all my life. So that's the kind of relationships we're looking to build. And in fact, we are building them, and you're going to hear about that in just a moment. So the STEP model is that we pay for the joint education of pairs of Israelis and Palestinians, usually work in Israeli universities because we don't have those facilities in the Palestinian area. We pay for them for full 4 years of time, and they help each other overcome the barriers and hurdles and obstacles of the research. And they come out of it really dear friends. And in addition, we require that each pair go out and do a community service every year, so that the community see with their own 2 eyes that an Israeli and a Palestinian can and do work together for everybody's benefit. And you might think, well, this is pretty obvious, but it's not so obvious there, where those kind of relationships are often discouraged. And you'll hear more about that in just a moment. So we've had people go out into the communities working with children, disabled children, or one pair just brought in a lot of high school students, and Kim's going to tell you about that momentarily. Where you see one pair brought in hundreds of kids. So in brief, for the summary, this part, I say STEP fosters trusting cooperative relations between Israelis and Palestinians, and it demonstrates that it's possible and useful. And so the lab groups benefit because there's enhanced productivity, the departments benefit because there's more productivity, the universities benefit because the departments are looking good, and so everybody benefits. There's no losers in this program. There are only winners in STEP. And in fact, the communities benefit because the kids, youth, young people, go out and they work in the communities. The communities get a benefit as well. And despite the hard past few years, and the past few years were pretty horrible, as you can imagine, we have more applicants than ever. So to the extent to which we could have more funding, we can enlarge this program. We had to reject 60% of the applicants this year. So what do we think about for the future? We want our people to have the maximum audience and to be most influential. So we're giving the upper level students, just as they're about to finish their PhD or have become recent alumni, training in leadership and entrepreneurship. So as they go out, they're even more respected because they all do achieve prestigious positions. So to date, we've been operating for 13 years. We have 30 people whom we've supported for the 4 years, and for 30 alumni. Several of them are already professors, both in Israel and in Palestine. And each semester, they influence new cohorts of students with the STEP ethos of constructive cooperation. We have STEP fellows who were a pair working at the Hebrew University and Faculty of Agriculture, who now each one of them went back, works in their Ministry of Agriculture, one in Palestine, one in Israel. And you can imagine there are these communicable diseases, right? Zoonotic diseases. And that jump all borders. They don't respect the political division. And so we have to have coordinated programs between the Palestinians and Israelis. So we have people advising in those ministries already. We have one Palestinian professor who continues to patent new drugs with her Israeli mentors. We have one who's a futurist in Microsoft. He's thinking beyond AI. You know, what is the world beyond the beyond? Kim is going to tell you about more things in a minute. But this guy also happens to be a political blogger, the Beyond Beyond. And so he has an enormous audience. So again, funding one pair influences hundreds, if not thousands of people. Let's see, what am I supposed to say now? I was going to introduce the STEP pair that you were going to meet, Muna and Aya, but Muna and who? Muna Manar, sorry. But unfortunately, literally both of them are with their children in bomb shelters. And the communication's just not working out at this moment. So I'd like to introduce you to Aya Awad, who happens to only be a postdoc at Stanford. Very, very bright woman. Those incredible people. Each one of these people are so unbelievable that it's hard. We get enthused about them each time we meet them. And if I'm speaking too fast, I'm sorry. It's one thing I didn't learn from the speaking coach, to slow down. Anyway, Aya, why don't you say something? Tell us about your wonderful life.
Hey everyone, sorry, my voice, I'm a bit sick.
Speak slowly.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Aya Awad. I'm a postdoctoral researcher at Stanford's Cancer Institute, where I study telomere biology and cancer. I'm also a member of the STEP board currently, and it's truly an honor to be here with everyone today. Thank you for coming and supporting this community. Unfortunately, due to the dire and frightening situation in Israel right now, our fellow STEP students are unable to join this evening. They very much wanted to be here, and we hold them especially close in our thoughts. STEP is deeply meaningful to me because it represents something rare and courageous. It brings together people who might otherwise never sit in the same room and asks them not to debate, not to convince, but rather to listen and to build. As a scientist, I believe in evidence, in curiosity, and in asking hard questions. STEP applies those same principles to human relationships. It creates a safe space for trust, for shared ambition, and for the belief that collaboration is stronger than division. In time when fear and polarization feel overwhelming, STEP reminds me that connection is still possible, and that investing in young scientists and leaders who choose partnership over separation is one of the most hopeful things we can do. So I want to thank you again for being part of that hope today.
Well, thank you, Aya. And one person I forgot to thank before, and I was afraid I would do this, so I'm going to take an extra second, is call out Rob Russell, who has been on the STEP steering committee for the last 10 years, and Rob has been a real mover and shaker behind this whole event. So Rob, let's put our hands together.
And I'd like to invite Rob and the rest of the Annisquam Village Church Choir under the direction of Kathleen Adams to offer Peace I Ask of Thee, O River.
Hello, everyone. My name is Scott Moore. I'm a violinist and composer, and I'm the artist in residence here at the Annisquam Village Church. Thank you. And it's been my privilege to be a small part of the committee that has helped plan this event. And it's an honor to be here today and to take part in this really special day. I'd also like to introduce and welcome my colleague, the brilliant pianist Tianhong Yang. And we're going to play a piece by Jesse Montgomery.
name is Abigail Reisman. I am the music director at Temple Ahavat Achim, and I'm so happy to be here for this event, and really happy to be playing with Akram Haddad today. We're going to play a series of pieces that we have written. So we're going to start with two tunes that I have written. They are klezmer music, which is the celebration music of Eastern European Jews. And so we're going to start with a nigun, which is a wordless song, and then move into a faster piece of Freilichs. All right, so next we're going to play a piece by Akram. It's called Faya.
I didn't intend to say anything here, but I thought maybe I would just say I chose this next piece by Arvo Pärt, Estonian composer, from a society that was, dealt with its own oppression for decades, in recent history at least. I find this piece, it's in some ways it's extremely simple, and in other ways it's extremely not simple. It's unusual in that regard, and I think you can say a lot of things about the idea of peace as a concept, peace as a sort of practice. But to me, one of the key points is a sense of vulnerability. And if we're not willing to lay aside our defenses and be truly vulnerable with ourselves, with others, then I think there can be no peace. So this piece for me is all about vulnerability.
this next piece we're going to do is a song that I set to the words of a Yiddish poet named Zisha Weinper. He wrote it around the turn of the century, and I feel as if his words are just as pertinent today as they were then. It's a poem in Yiddish, so I think I'll translate it for you a little bit. So it says, singing, the wounded world wakes up, and through song, their clenched fists open. Singing, the tired world wakes up. Singing, the bloody world wakes up, and hearts rejoice. We sing, we sing, we sing, and all worlds ring with song. We sing, we sing, we sing, all worlds ring with song. It says, Zingen diek.
Singen die, reißt sich die Welt, die verwundete und durch Gesang öffnen sich die Hände gebundene. Singen die, wacht auf die Welt, die vermattelte und durch Gesang mit feiner Reute und zerflatterte. Singen mir, singen mir, singen mir, ei, 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 alle Welten verklingen mir. Singen mir, singen mir, singen mir, ei, 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 alle Welten verklingen Singen die, wacht auf die Welt, die verblutigte und durch Gesang freien sich Herzen gemutigte. Singen die, hebt sich die Welt, die Getrottene und Hand in Hand vor euch wegen nicht betrottene. Singen mir, singen mir, singen mir, ei, 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 alle Welten verklingen mir. Singen mir, singen mir, singen mir, ei, 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 alle Welten verklingen mir. Singen mir, singen mir, singen mir, ei, 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 alle Welten verklingen mir. Singen mir, singen mir, singen mir, ei, 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 alle Welten verklingen mir.
have just one more for you, the two of us, and this is Akram Haddad's 4334. 43034. 43. pleasure to introduce the Temple Ahavat Achim band and choir. We're going to do an arrangement of Oseh Shalom, a song of peace. So please come on up.
All right. Oh, am I introducing? I'm going to introduce Kim to come on up and tell us a little bit more.
Boy, that's a hard act to follow. Musicians, you are awesome, and let's just give another hand of applause for. Before we conclude this program, I once again want to thank, from the bottom of my heart, all the people who organized today's event, to Rev Sue, Anasquam Village Church, to Rav Naomi, to the ABC Hospitality Committee, and to the entire organizing team. You guys are awesome. And to all of you who showed up today, despite snowstorms and delays and parking, thank you for showing up for peace. So, Rick, are we ready? Okay. I get asked a lot of questions about STEP, and there's one that keeps occurring, and that is, what can one pair of STEP fellows really accomplish? I'm here to tell you a lot. I'm going to introduce you to Danielle and Muna. Danielle and Muna illustrate, as many of our fellows do, what we call the multiplier effect. That is, when one individual, one factor, a pair of individuals can precipitate great change. We also call that the gift that keeps on giving. So, Danielle, a Jewish Israeli, was paired with Muna, a Palestinian, to become STEP fellows at Hebrew University. They built this incredible scientific collaboration and partnership that blossomed into this very strong friendship. So even when Danielle graduated with her PhD way earlier than anybody ever anticipated, and she became a professor and a director of a research lab, that friendship endured. And we can have slide 2. So Muna kept showing up at Danielle's house to light candles on Hanukkah with Danielle and her children, and Danielle baked iftar pastries, iftar is a Muslim holiday, with Muna. But since Danielle got a job, Muna was alone, so we paired her with Sarah. And there they are, Sarah and Muna also built an incredible scientific partnership. They became friends. And they told us the story that when they first were partnered and they'd go to lunch together, they'd go to lunch and the Arabs would be having lunch on one side, the Jews would be having lunch on the other side. But then over time, now remember, we support STEP fellows for at least 4 years, that started to change as they saw Muna and Sarah together. And soon, Arabs and Jews were having lunch together, just a bunch of scientists taking a break. Yes, STEP is a gift that keeps on giving. And just as the lab, so you say, okay, that's in academia, that's in the lab. What happens outside the walls of academia? And Muna got married in East Jerusalem, and she invited Danielle, Sarah, and the entire lab to her wedding. And many of the Jews had never been to East Jerusalem. They had never even been to a Palestinian celebration, yet there they were, dancing together with Muna's family at her wedding. Yes, STEP is the gift that keeps on giving. And just as the lab was accepted into Muna's family was accepted into the lab by way of her husband, Mustafa. Mustafa is a doctor, and one year he came to a STEP convocation with Muna. The convocation is an event we hold annually to honor our students and to build a network of peace builders. And he attended that convocation. At that convocation, there was the keynote speaker who talked about his organization that trained Israeli and Palestinian trauma surgeons. So Mustafa was inspired by the talk. He took the courses in trauma surgery, and he became a trauma surgeon. And then he had a brilliant idea. What if I apply what Muna and Sarah are researching in the lab? What if I apply that to develop a special bandage to heal wounds? And so he too joined the lab briefly to explore that hypothesis. But Mustafa is a doctor, and he got a job in Ashkelon. And for those who don't know, Ashkelon is a town in southern Israel. Mustafa, like all doctors, healed and worked with all kinds of patients. But it was particularly poignant after the October 7th attacks of 2023 that he was the doctor for the survivors of that attack and its aftermath. There are many families like Muna and Mustafa, but there are also families that are resistant. Many of our fellows tell us that when they're first partnered with STEP, their families are resistant. They don't want them working with the quote-unquote the other. And then yet, them too, over time, that ice starts to melt and the family starts seeing the value of their work, the science that they're learning and unearthing, and the friendships they are making. And those families start to change. STEP changes hearts and minds of universities, families, but also communities. As Alan mentioned earlier, we require that each pair of STEP fellows engage in a community outreach initiative. And just a couple of weeks ago, we got an email from one pair of STEP fellows. They had joined forces with 3 or 4 other pairs of STEP fellows. They invited 100 Palestinian high school students who were interested in science into their labs. They invited other labs. So there were 8 labs, 100 students, 2 different campuses of Hebrew University. And the objective of that was not only to introduce the students to laboratory science, but to lead by example, to be models of the value of constructive cooperation. And yes, STEP's impact keeps growing and multiplying, even after students graduate. So Muna got her PhD at a graduate, and she was planning the graduation ceremony. And Danielle really, really wanted to go and support her friend. Yet, as you see, she was 9+ months pregnant. And she showed up, she was there for her friend. The very next day, she gave birth to her 3rd son, and she named him Amit, which is a Hebrew word for friendship. Danielle said, "I may have many jobs over time, but I am friends with Muna for life." So, Danielle, Muna, Sarah, they're all professionals now in healthcare industry and biotech. And in those roles, they influence hundreds and hundreds of colleagues, students, faculty, both domestically and abroad. And they continue to be involved with STEP. Danielle, like Aya, who you met earlier, are both members of the STEP board, and they are guides that we truly rely on, and they continue to champion and create opportunities for Israeli and Palestinian cooperation. This past year, we received many emails from students and faculty telling us that STEP is a light in the dark. And we'd like to invite you to be part of that STEP network to show how, even in these most difficult times, and they are difficult, we can spread the light and rise above the fray and be advocates for peace and change. So thank you. So as you know, Nina and Manar could not attend by Zoom today because they're in the shelter with their friends, with their families. They both have little children. But they sent us the letters, and Alan and I wanted to read those letters, and if we could do that without crying, that would be a success. Yeah, you're first.
Well, you know, men are I guess we're not supposed to cry. Maybe now we are supposed to cry. I don't know. Anyway, this will be a difficult one, but it's only preparation for what Kim is going to do. So if you have tissues, you can take out your tissue now and then take your wallet out afterwards. So I'm reading one from Manar. This is a Palestinian woman. She's Nina's partner. It's really tough. This is nothing. Wait till you hear Kim's. Okay, my name is Manar Salama, and I am Nina's partner. Nina and I meet each other every Sunday through Thursday. That's the work week in Israel. The first good morning I say in the lab is to her. I met Nina in 2019 while I was on my maternity leave. She was someone that I did not know deeply, except that she is a new master's student in the lab. But since we joined STEP as partners, things changed a lot. I can conclusively say that my relationship with Nina is deep, precious, and very personal. She's very dear to my heart, and so is her family. Even though she is younger than me, she is very much wiser. She writes my way of thinking when I am lost. And I know that every advice I get from her is based on complete maturity, love, and care. I am so happy now that we can share our motherhood stories together. Honestly, and to be true, the relation between Arab students and Israeli students in general is not bad, but it is never deep or meaningful. And you can, if you look closer, feel the hollow feeling between the two sides because, of course, of the nature of the system we live in. This can be very clearly seen when things get rough, as they are now and have been. However, as an Arab student, as a minority, one of the amazing things that happened to me was STEP. In the beginning, I was scared. I didn't know what it was going to be like, what the social perspective of it was. I didn't know what I'm going to go through in STEP. But now, after the few years of being a STEP partner, keep that thought. But now, after the few years of being a STEP partner with Nina, I can say that we have a very deep connection. I am very grateful that Nina is my partner because she made building this bond very easy, because every STEP bond takes two to make it bloom. I know where we live and the hardships that we go through as two people, but STEP showed me there is hope. There is hope for peace and hope for love. And STEP is our bubble of freedom where we can express our feelings. So that's from Manar.
And now this letter from Nina. I actually told her that she should quit science and become a writer. So, hi everyone, my name is Nina Schneider, and my STEP partner is Manar. Manar and I wish that we would be able to speak to you in person, but sadly, we are yet again faced with the difficult reality of the region. We're currently navigating keeping our children and families safe while under attack. We hope to one day meet you all. In better days, Manar and I researched together the genetic causes of blindness and we developed genetic therapies for these diseases. Our lab is our haven, our happy place. Before STEP, I had rarely, if ever, organically met or spoke to an Arab person in Israel. It was all very foreign to me and felt like an impossibility to truly connect. I would see Arabs on the bus and feel like they were a million miles away. And in times of intense conflict, as hard as it is to admit, I would also feel some amount of fear. It was hard to imagine what we might have in common. I joined the lab when Manar was on maternity leave with her second daughter. During that time, whenever something was broken or missing or a mystery in the lab, Manar's name would come up as the person who always knew what to do. I figured that this person was integral to the lab and that I better make a good impression. It became very clear when Manar came back to the lab that not only did she always know the inner workings of the lab, but also the people in the lab. Very quickly, through the science and the day-to-day, we bonded through our love of science, cooking, our families, and talking a little too much. Manar wears her heart on her sleeve, and her kindness and pure intentions are something that I deeply admire, and she immediately made me feel at home. I think we established a professional foundation that turned social, through which we bonded first over happy events in our lives, and eventually found the bravery to sometimes broach the more complicated and painful events of the reality of living there. We were only able to do this because we had shown day after day our respect and care for one another. STEP has helped me find hope in the darkness, especially the last few years. It has given me a context to build a strong bond with Manar, and I think it has pushed us to also discuss and learn about one another at a deeper level which can be painful at times, but it is real. STEP has been a way for me to search for truth, speak my truth, and learn the truth of others. Every year after we meet as a larger group of STEP fellows, I feel like no matter how bleak the situation, there are brilliant individuals around us who believe that we can find a way through, and we are able to spread that vision by example through our scientific research. I love to talk about STEP, and to be honest, especially when it makes friends or family uncomfortable, which I'm sure it does. I see us as peace-building scientists living our shared vision of a peaceful life together through things like volunteering, teaching a group of high schoolers from East Jerusalem, presenting together at both local and international conferences, telling our friends and family about each other, or even introducing them. Manar was the first friend to meet my baby son. Rick, can we have that last slide, please? And one day, when we have found our careers taking us on different paths, we can both remain friends and collaborate professionally, and maybe, most importantly, remember the work environment that provided us with so much and enriched our lives, and try to provide that for others. And now Alan's going to just do the final conclusion.
This is the moment you've been waiting for. First of all, before I ask for much, I want to again thank the fabulous teams that put this day together. Pardon? Sorry, I didn't get it. But I think we should thank the Reverend and Rabbi. And really, you guys have done an amazing job, and your teams have done an amazing job, and thank you again, Rob. So clearly, STEP is a win-win for all, building friendships, enduring friendships, and colleagues, and a real alternative to the current stasis and enmity. And I bet many of you are asking, how can you do more for STEP? So each pair of STEP fellows costs about $25,000 a year. Currently, the universities are pretty invested in STEPs. They match us dollar for dollar. And we have almost no overhead, since Kim and I are just thrilled to never sleep and keep working, along with wonderful people on our board, the two people who you met. And Joan Goldberg is here, who's also on our board. Rob Russell, who's been on our steering committee. These people don't get overpaid. They don't get paid anything. So our goal is about $300,000 to grow STEP, so we don't have to reject more people, especially at this time when it's so precious to build these relationships. And we need to hire a CO for succession, because unfortunately we may be timing out biologically. So those are our objectives, and of course we'd like to have an endowment if we possibly could do that, so we don't have to spend so much time raising funds, but we could really improve the program and enhance this unique opportunity for them. So please use the envelopes that are outside on the table. There are stamped envelopes. You don't have to add a stamp, just add a big check. Or you can use the QR code, or use the STEP website, step-gtp.org. Or you can call us. I'm happy to give you my card, my phone number, as is Kim. So please join us in this effort, and we'll try to lay the groundwork. We may not be the people who make the peace, but we will lay the groundwork and make it possible for peace to happen. And especially on a day like this, couldn't need it more. It couldn't be more vivid. as for a need. So thank you so much for being here. It's really been wonderful.
Please join us, stand, as we sing together number 752 in the hymnal. It's also printed in your program, Dona Nobis Pacem.
Reverend Sue and I would like to give you a blessing. This is a traditional blessing from the book of Numbers, Parshat Naso, for those who are keeping track. It is thought to be the oldest blessing in Western civilization. I will say it in Hebrew. Reverend Sue will say it in English. We flipped a coin and decided on that. So my folks will probably want to say Ken Yehi Ratzon after each line. I'm not sure what yours say after each line.
They just receive it.
Okay, so that's how it'll go, something like that. Yivarechecha Adonai vishmerecha.
The Lord bless you and keep you.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha vichuneka.
The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
The Lord turn his face to you and give you peace.
Amen. Let's eat.
Let's eat.